Here. Thank you. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
501 Nelson Street. We rejoice in all the people on Zoom. We're all
Unmute, Nelson.
No sound.
I think.
Yeah, I am a light. I am a light in this world. In this world, I am a light. I am a light in this world. In this world, this is the place. This is the time. Let it shine. Let it shine. I see the joy. I see the joy in this world. In this world, I see the joy. I see the joy in this world. In this world, this is the place. This is the time. Let it shine. Let it shine. I'm living love every day. 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 Spreading peace along the way. Spreading peace along the way. Right time, right place. Living love every day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Right time, right place. Living love every day. I am a light. I am a light. I am a light. I am a light in this world. In this world. In this world. In this world. I am a light. I am a light. I am a light. I am a light in this world. In this world. In this world. In this world. This is the place. This is the place. This is the time. This is the time. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. This is the place. This is the time. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
What a rousing opening. Fabulous. Fabulous time for us to shine. And we rejoice in our opportunity to shine wherever we are today. Easter Sunday, a glorious time to connect with our oneness of divine presence, with God within, and to shine. Today we have an opportunity to connect with all the people all over the world who are celebrating Passover or Easter or other religious celebrations, or who are just celebrating being alive, being resilient, being strong. We have a vision at Unity of London, and it is a vision shared by people all over the world. I invite those at 501 Nelson to say this vision out loud, and those at home to also say it. We believe in a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. You think about the impact of those words. Shared spiritual awakening. I don't know about you, but when I really, really focus on it, it makes me want to dance and sing. Shared spiritual awakening. We also have a mission And our mission is a little bit similar, co-creating with spirit to transform lives through shared spiritual awakening. We don't do it by ourselves. We don't do it as one single person. We co-create with divine spirit, with God. I love this picture. We're all wonderfully made, uniquely made, special individuals co-creating with spirit. We learn how to express ourselves as individuals, and unity believes in self-expression. We're not trying to make a whole bunch of cloned people. We want people to genuinely express with joy, to serve with joy. And in the self-expression and joy, we gain meaning and purpose. We also believe in the 5 principles, the big hand. We believe that God is present in everyone, everywhere, 24 hours a day. We believe I am, I think, I pray, I live. All is part of divine presence. Who is the change? We are the change. We create the positive change and the energy. Coexisting. This is a beautiful visual, I think, created by Larry, or certainly shared through Larry. We provide fellowship and education for spiritual walkers from everywhere. We don't stand at that door and say, no, sorry, you can't come in. We say, come on in, no matter what your faith. We welcome you, we embrace you, we see God shining through you. There are a few announcements, and next Sunday, April 24th, will be a mini conference. It's being sponsored by Unity Canada, and we invite you to join on Zoom at 1 o'clock. We had thought about inviting people here to share on the big screen, but we're not sure if there would be enough people here for that. So to be honest, we're saying, in the comfort of your home, join on Zoom. And there will be a live musician there, a singer, a young guy who's singing. This will replace our regular Sunday service. So there will be no Sunday service at Unity on Nelson Street next Sunday. Instead, go to Zoom at 1 o'clock. I hope you do. And it will be a different experience, but a chance to connect with unities from all over. Our prayer chaplains today are Dawn on Zoom and Sylvia right here in person. Ever since 130 years ago or more, Silent Unity has been praying with and for people. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Lorraine's waving to me. Yes, I am teaching a course. It's coming up on May 3rd. It will be based on Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters. And Myrtle Fillmore is the co-founder of Unity and a woman of wisdom and insight, love, patience, and compassion. And in rereading her book, I'm inspired all over again by her. So if you want to join, that course is available from 1 to 3 or in the evening, 6:30 to 8:30. There is no charge. If you want to make a love offering to Unity of London at hotmail.com via e-transfer, please do it at the beginning and just say this is for the course. I do not get the money that goes to, or your offering rather, it goes because I'm still learning about teaching. And Now we move into prayer. Now we move into prayer. I invite you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. To breathe in all the love that is in our world, and there is a lot of love. There is a lot of kindness, generosity, caring, and compassion. That is what we are absorbing. And as we absorb the love, the kindness, the compassion, we breathe out love, kindness, and compassion. We release any of our doubts or fears. We hold Unity of Vancouver Island in prayer today. They will be having their service, and maybe they're sending out the same love that we are. Today we hold our dear Lois. We're happy to see back home, having left the hospital with her dear daughter, Lori. We hold in prayer all of our Unity of London members. Dear Dawn, who's a faithful prayer chaplain, our Unity board, those who lead behind the scenes. Claudette and Peter Fillmore, not Fillmore, dear, oh dear. Claudette and Peter Foy, Suzanne and Chuck Semple, here with us from Port Stanley. Anyone who may have suffered challenges and met them head on with the resilience and courage that comes from faith and divine presence. We affirm today our capacity to rebound, our capacity to rise above every single challenge that we see, because we are endowed with unity, oneness, with divine presence. God abiding in us, through us, and flowing from us 24 hours a day. That is powerful. I invite you to take a moment now to whisper the names of those you hold in prayer, those close to your heart. And to all of our friends and family, all those who are with us in spirit, we send love. Love that solves all issues. Amen. It's a pleasure for me today to welcome our platform assistant, Peggy Matzer.
Good morning. Today's daily word for Easter Sunday. Through Christ, I rise again. On this glorious Easter Sunday, the sun rises on the new day. I am glorious too, called to life and shining with joy because Christ is risen in me. Just as the stone was rolled away to reveal an empty tomb where Jesus' crucified body had been, I roll away the stones of all that has kept me entombed and leave my crucifixion experiences behind. Easter is the celebration of Jesus overcoming death. It is also an invitation to celebrate my victory over all I have survived. It is a celebration of the triumph of truth the resurrection of the Christ within. The trials of the world are always temporary. Today, I roll away the stone of limitation and am resurrected into the truth of God. With joy, I rise again. I am the resurrection and the life. John 11:25. And now it's my very great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Katherine Breau. Katherine has been a student of New Thought since 1986 and has gradually and consistently applied the unity principles and practices. Her life today is unrecognizable from when she first started down this road. The past 36 years have been a process of spiritual study, personal introspection, and creating a life she loves. The past few years have been transformational as she has answered the call to become an ordained minister with International Metaphysical Ministries, has achieved her master's in metaphysical science, and is currently studying for her certification as a master facilitator with feminine power and evolving wisdom. Katherine facilitated the course of Love at Unity for 2 years and currently facilitates the Wednesday morning group studying the Way of Mastery series. Her most recent accomplishment is a coaching certification with Magnetic Mind. She is now coaching people to live from their higher consciousness. Please welcome Katherine Breau with her message, Create the Life You Desire, Go Within.
Good morning. What I'm going to be exploring today in our topic of how the Easter story relates to your life today, by exploring and interpreting the Easter story through a mystical lens. And by readjusting our thinking beyond our physical senses to welcome a new dimension or a new and greater reality of life and consciousness. So I actually want to start off with what I mean by a mystical lens. I believe that we as a people are evolving beyond the metaphysical interpretation of life and moving into the mystical. I'm starting with this because I want to explore the 4 levels of consciousness as a framework or a foundation for how we could interpret any story through the mystical lens. So let me give a brief overview of the 4 levels, and then we will move into the Easter story. And it's really important for me to say that as we dive into this and talk about the different levels of conscious awareness, it might sound like we're talking about high and low, or good and bad, or evolved and not evolved. And that is not really the intention. The intention is for us to take a look within, to ask ourselves, which level am I currently tuned into and radiating from? And therefore, how am I experiencing that in my life today? So I want to be clear, I'm not saying that we graduate to these different levels and therefore we're better than someone else or less than someone else. I am not saying that. We're not comparing ourselves to someone else or comparing ourselves to where we were even a day ago or a month ago or a year ago. We're recognizing there is a choice in each of us every single moment of where we want to be tuning into and living from. And that, to me, says true freedom. Because we begin to move our life from unconscious creation to conscious creation. Then we can start to shift the stories and the narratives of what we have called reality and to birth this greater reality. So these 4 levels that I've given names are okay, so they all start with the letter M. For level 1, martyr. Another word for this is victim consciousness. I want to be very transparent right now and tell you that I lived in this consciousness for many, many years. I believed the world was happening to me. I believed there was something wrong with me. I believed there was something wrong with the world. Therefore, I kept experiencing the brokenness of the world. So level 1, martyr, things happen to me. I'm a victim to the world, and I believe that I must change the world in order to be free. Through opening up to spiritual practice, I was introduced to Unity New Thought movement in 1986, and I heard these profound ideas that we can actually change our reality based on our thought. It felt like magic. Now, level 2 is with your mind or mental. Now, I also lived in this level of consciousness for many, many years after I found Unity, but I want to be clear again. At any moment, we can tap into any of these levels. And in my experience, I have witnessed that we are primarily living in one level. So I was primarily living in the victim martyr consciousness. The world is happening to me, and that is centered in physical. What I could see and hear and touch, that was reality to me. And then as I came into New Thought and started to discover that through meditation and affirmations and affirmative prayer, I could start to change my mind and therefore change what I called reality. That was making things happen with my mind. As I continued my evolution and my spiritual practice and my curiosity, I became aware of another level of consciousness called metaphysical. And that is, things happen through me. So level 1, martyr, things happen to me. Level 2, mental or mind, I make things happen. Level 3, metaphysical, I allow things to happen or things happen through me. This perspective moves us into our heart space. So from physical to mental to tapping into emotions or heart space. And the metaphysical level is one that a great deal of New Thought has lived in. What I want to share with you today is that the outcome of studying at this metaphysical level, mainly through Unity teachings, for many, many years is what introduced me to the 4th level that I know as mystical consciousness level. This level, of course, is within each and every one of us, and that is the mystical level. And that is things happen as me. So again, level 1, things happen to me. Level 2, I make things happen. Level 3, things happen through me, or I allow things to happen. And level 4, at the ultimate level, the mystical level, things happen as me. So I started with that because a lot of times in Unity and other New Thought communities, we tend to talk about the metaphysical interpretation of the story. And I've heard many beautiful and very powerful metaphysical interpretations of the Easter story, for example. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, our founders of Unity, ushered in a profound new consciousness that was happening around the world. And they tapped into this evolution of consciousness where they started to recognize that I can actually affect what I call reality. I can heal myself. New Thoughts changed my reality. It was profound at the time. And of course, Charles Fillmore wrote the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, didn't he? He went through and he gave his interpretation of all the terms in the Christian text. This was really incredible because that was actually his mystical interpretation of the stories. He went within and created from a place deep within him an interpretation that at the time was profound and groundbreaking, because most of the world is lived in martyr or victim consciousness. And we still see that today. And again, we're not pointing out good and bad, right or wrong. We are looking at what does it create when we live in victim or martyr. Therefore, I'm going to look for a savior outside of me to try to change what's happening in my life. And we can see that a lot of traditional religions live in that paradigm. So when Charles and Myrtle Fillmore came along, and so many other new thought teachers and philosophers came along and said, what if we are not a victim of this world? What if through spiritual practice, we could start to change our mind and change what we call reality? What if illness is not the ultimate truth of who and what we are? That we can actually tap into something within us that has a profound impact on us and our own healing. So Charles created this metaphysical dictionary from his own spiritual practice. And I'm going to take a guess that Myrtle had a lot to do with that. She was so beautifully living in this heart-centered metaphysical reality, wherein I'm thinking Charles may have been a little more in that mental, which is very, very powerful. And they're both very important. That's why I believe that together they created this profound movement called unity. What I find interesting is that in the unity teachings, it's prevalent to ask the question, what would Charles say? Or what would Jesus say? The interesting thing about that is, in my experience, when we only look for what someone outside of us has said, even a profound spiritual leader, we might lose the ability to ask ourselves a profound question, and that is, what does this story mean to me? What does this story mean in my own consciousness? What happens when I allow myself to open up to this inner wisdom that will give me information that doesn't come from a book? Now, I want you to know that this part takes courage, and for some of us, a lot of courage. It's a lovely experience to study Charles Fillmore's mystical interpretation of the Easter story, but when we only look for what someone outside of us said, are we blocking ourselves from asking, what does this story mean in my own consciousness? And isn't it true that unity, new thought, and the Fillmores invite us to look within and to connect with our true nature, our essential being, our God essence, and ask for the information to come from that level of spirit? And yet, what we are doing is interpreting the stories through the mind and from the mind of Charles or Myrtle Fillmore or whoever's interpretation we might study. I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel that it's important to adopt the Fillmore's interpretations because, after all, they are the founders of unity, aren't they? Many people find great comfort in consistency and solidarity, especially among individuals with a common interest or mutual support. I can recall a workshop I attended with Reverend Paul Hasselbeck, who we all know, at Unity Village when he was talking about a quote from Charles Fillmore. And right after that, he put up another quote from Charles Fillmore regarding the same subject, and it was quite a different interpretation. What Paul was pointing to and what I'm pointing to is that our consciousness is always evolving, and we have pure consciousness or ultimate reality, which is unchanging, what we call spirit, God essence, source energy. So when we start to look at any story, but today, of course, the Easter story, the invitation is to ask yourself what it might mean to you. I'm going to share with you where my current consciousness, my perception, or my awareness of the Easter story rests today. But what I really want to invite is for each of us to look within and ask ourselves, what does this story mean to me? Personally, I grew up in the Baptist faith, and Easter was a very serious, very traditional time. My mother would make my sister and I matching outfits in pastel colors, topped off with the Easter bonnet and beautiful little white gloves. The church was lined with white lilies, and I remember the hymns about pain and blood and suffering and sin. The only thing that made it bearable was knowing there would be a chocolate Easter egg waiting for me at home if I behaved. My first Easter Sunday at Unity Church in Bellevue, Washington, where they talked about Charles Fillmore's interpretation of Easter was unforgettable. The minister said that Charles thought the donkey that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday represented peace, and that Jerusalem represented a higher level of consciousness. So Jesus rode in peace to his higher level of consciousness, or you could even say bringing a higher level of consciousness through his own evolution and through his own individual awareness of his consciousness. So what it means to me in this moment is also an awareness, because what happened ultimately was that there was the crucifixion. And the crucifixion, which is often said in New Thought, represents the crossing out of negative thinking. But I intend to take it a little deeper today. And that is, if this is a story that I begin to ask myself, what does the story mean to me? As a representation of the evolution of consciousness, I would say to myself, am I willing, peacefully willing, to take a look at those parts of myself that may no longer serve me or the world? In other words, am I willing to look at those nooks and crannies, or what you might call shadows, those parts of myself that I buried long ago in the tomb? Maybe those parts of myself that I'm ashamed of, or that I don't really want anyone else to see. And so what we could say with this story is it's possible for us to ignore that. In other words, don't go to the city. Or it's possible for us to resist that, to pretend that that's not true. And then chances are we end up projecting that upon other people. That's what we radiate. So what I'm saying is I see all the flaws in someone else and maybe haven't taken a moment to take a look at what is happening within me without judgment, with pure love. So is it possible for me to move into conscious awareness, the evolution of my consciousness, raising my consciousness to a higher level, which in my experience does involve a crucifixion? And I do think sometimes in New Thought, we tend to focus on the love and the light and the transformation and all the goodness in the world. And that is so, so important. I also know in my own evolution of my own consciousness that I needed to take a look at some of those aspects of self that I had buried. That at one point in my level of consciousness, I would have called it a defect or something that was wrong with me. I've come to understand that we are moving into a new level of conscious awareness now. We have heard that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And what I see us shifting into right now is spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. I ask you this, what if it's all spiritual? What if those parts of myself that I've abandoned, that I called human, are actually deeply spiritual? What if some of the most painful experiences of my life have actually created the greatest transformation? That to me is my own mystical interpretation of the crucifixion story. I choose to peacefully honor all parts of me and begin to take a look at how I allow those parts of myself that I have abandoned to come up for healing, not judgment. For me, that involves a lot of allowing myself to feel, having spiritual community, loving and trusting the process, allowing myself to notice those parts of myself that maybe we call the ego points of view. In other words, the crucifixion to me is really more about questioning everything I've ever believed. If it's true that thoughts create reality, if it's true that my emotional state creates reality, if it's true that the frequency that I am vibrating from is actually what creates reality, then I can begin to question everything that is not that. In other words, we come into this world as whole and perfect spiritual beings, deeply one with source energy. And we begin to be taught about all our lack and limitations and our brokenness. And I don't know about you, but I didn't have Mr. Rogers as my teacher growing up. So I did not hear that I was whole and perfect just as I was. No. And now we're saying, what if it's really about exploring all those ideas and beliefs and allowing ourselves to, yes, crucify? And that's a pretty harsh word. So I will say to question or to become curious. Ask ourselves, is this the ultimate truth of who and what I am? And the even more important question to me, and it's a question I've been living in for more than a year now, and it's very simple. What gets created when I fill in the blank? What gets created when I believe I'm broken? What gets created when I understand my true nature as a whole and perfect spiritual being? What gets created when I view the world through good and bad or right and wrong? And what gets created when I view the world with curiosity, with openness and presence? So to me, that crucifixion story is profoundly simple. I begin to look at all the ideas and beliefs and the points of view or perspectives that have kept me feeling limited and have kept me from being a profoundly beneficial presence on this planet. But what I have discovered, as many of us have discovered, is that when we allow ourselves to deeply know our true nature, not only do we shift the experience of our own reality, but we begin to then shift the consciousness on planet Earth. That, to me, is the Easter story. That, to me, is the resurrection story. And in the mystical interpretation, and again, I remind you that what I mean by that is my own personal mystical interpretation of the Easter story right now, today, could be different next month. It's actually a deepening, a true awareness of my oneness with Source. That is the resurrection story. I've been searching all my life for someone or something to help me feel whole again. And all the while, it was always right here within me. So I can call off the search and rest in this greater reality. This greater reality is profoundly simple. Love is who you are. And knowing that and being that and tuning into that frequency and radiating that love and light is exactly the Easter story. In closing, what I would like to say is the ultimate Easter story and what I see happening on our planet Earth as a result of more and more of us waking up to this mystical level is this. We are shifting from the law of attraction to the law of radiance. This, to me, is my mystical interpretation of the Easter story. What was once only recognized in a few spiritual masters is now calling each one of us. And it is available in this very moment as we tap into the frequency of our true divine nature and know very deeply who and what we are. we radiate as that into the world, then each of us is called to be a spiritual master that we are. We simply remember that right here, right now. And we take that into meditation. We have a very special, oh my goodness, a very, very special conscious musical meditation for us today. So please get comfortable and feel into this.
Shines from within these hands of mine. Oh, my soul shines from within these hands of mine. What do you do when you feel God's love shining within you? What do you do when you feel God's love shining back to you? You cry, you cry, you cry. Shines bright from inside of you. Oh, I was made in the image of your love. Oh, I was made in the image of your light. What do you do when you feel God's love shining within you? Is you? What do you do when you feel God's love shining back to you? Is you? You cry. You cry, you cry, you cry, you cry, when you realize God's love shines bright from inside of you.
hands of ours. Oh, our souls shine from within these collective hands of ours. What do we do when we feel God's love shining within us? It's us. What do we do when we feel God's love shining back to us? It's us. We cry, we cry, we cry, we cry, we cry, and then we smile with ecstasy when we realize God's love has always been right here from inside of us.
Almost don't want to leave. What a beautiful message from Paul Luftenegger that inspired us to go deep within. And we thank Katherine Breau for also passionately inspiring us to consider where we are in terms of our consciousness. The one phrase that really resonated with me was, let's get away from the law of attraction and focus on the law of radiance. And Katherine, you shared with us in a way that left lasting impact. We are so grateful to you for bringing your wisdom, all your years of metaphysical training, but most of all, your heartfelt love of sharing. And I'm sure that those who heard this message, those who will hear it in the future, will remember it for a long, long time and feel inspired. And we thank you so much. I believe there's a song now. I'm not sure.
Oh, highest self, be with me now. Make my life shine with whole love now. Oh, highest self, fill my cup up now. Make my life shine with holy love now. I am the captain of my soul. I use my life for good. I am the master of me. Can you hear me now? Can you see me now? Can you feel me now? master of myself. I am a sphere of sovereign love now. Oh, highest self, be within me now. No beginning and no end, just love now. Oh, higher self, I am a sphere of love now, omnipresent with my whole love now. I am the captain of my soul. I use my life for good. I am the master of me. Can you hear me now? Can you see me now? Can you feel me now? I am the captain and master of myself. I am a sphere of whole love now. Oh, higher self, we are one love now, here to serve the whole world now. Oh, higher self, divine love fills all of me now. Universal love, flood our planet now. We are our highest self.
Words are not enough. They're just not enough to say thank you to Paul Luftenegger for sharing his sphere of love with us. We appreciate everybody who shared their time with us today. Katherine sharing her message, Paul Luftenegger sharing his brilliant, heartfelt music, and you who came to Unity of London, whether online or in person. We welcome anybody who came to our service who's new. We're grateful for all of you who choose to offer to the source that nurtures you spiritually. And we honor our many members of Unity of London, our guests, our friends, who share their time, talent, and treasure, who share their abundance with our community. We honor you. And let us now move to our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds me. I am the light. The love of God enfolds me. I am the love. The power of God protects me. I am the power. The presence of God watches over me. I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Yea, God. Yea, us. Yea, divine presence, who is us. And now our peace song. Joyous way to conclude our service. And it's not super concluded. We wish everybody a wondrous day. And we now have fellowship online and in person. And if there's anybody here right, oh,